So you want to own a medieval tavern. Perhaps you've imagined roaring fireplaces, overflowing tankards of ale, wandering minstrels singing for silver coins, weary travelers swapping stories from distant kingdoms, and prosperous merchants filling your tables every evening. In films and fantasy novels, the tavern is the heart of every medieval town. It seems like the perfect business. Every traveler needs food, every merchant needs a bed, every soldier wants ale, every village celebrates inside your walls. Your building never seems empty. Money flows as fast as the beer. But that's the dream. The reality is that a medieval tavern wasn't merely a place to drink. It was a hotel, restaurant, brewery, stable, warehouse, hiring hall, post office, banking office, town meeting place, and occasionally even a courtroom. Your customers expected far more than a mug of ale. They expected shelter from bandits, warm food after days on muddy roads, fresh horses, storage for valuable cargo, reliable news, and perhaps most importantly, safety. Every barrel of ale represented months of agricultural labor. Every loaf of bread depended on successful harvests. Every guest carried the risk of theft, violence, disease, or unpaid debts. Owning a tavern wasn't about pouring drinks. It was about operating one of medieval Europe's most essential pieces of commercial infrastructure. Before your first traveler ever crossed the doorway, you'd already spent years acquiring land, constructing timber buildings, digging wells, building stables, purchasing livestock, securing brewing rights, and negotiating with local lords. In the Middle Ages, hospitality wasn't simply good business. It was the backbone of commerce itself. Not every medieval tavern served the same purpose. The smallest was the village alehouse. Usually operated by farming families, these establishments primarily served local villagers with homemade ale and simple meals. Many were extensions of private homes rather than dedicated commercial buildings. Then came the coaching inn. Located beside major trade routes, these businesses catered to merchants, pilgrims, messengers, and nobles traveling between cities. Accommodation became just as important as food. Urban taverns served a different market. Found inside medieval towns, they attracted craftsmen, guild members, sailors, scholars, and local officials. Business meetings, hiring agreements, and political discussions often took place around their wooden tables. Roadside inns specialized in long-distance travelers. Large stables, blacksmith partnerships, storage facilities, and horse care generated significant portions of total income. Some monasteries operated guest houses that functioned similarly, although profits often supported religious communities rather than private owners. Finally, luxury inns catered to wealthy nobles and royal officials. Private rooms, higher quality food, imported wine, better security, premium prices. Although every establishment served food and drink, their economics differed dramatically depending on location, clientele, and local trade routes. The tavern itself wasn't merely selling alcohol. It was selling convenience, security, and access to medieval commerce. In medieval Europe, location determined everything. A tavern built beside a busy trade route could prosper for generations. One built several miles away might never survive. The most valuable locations stood near castles, city gates, river crossings, bridges, ports, marketplaces, or pilgrimage roads. Thousands of travelers passed these locations every year. Many had little choice but to stop. Land ownership presented the first challenge. Much of medieval Europe operated under feudal systems. Instead of purchasing land outright, tavern operators often leased property from local lords, monasteries, or royal estates. Annual rents, taxes, or portions of revenue were commonly owed. Then came construction, timber framing, stone foundations, thatched or tiled roofing, large fireplaces, bread ovens, cellars, guest rooms, kitchen facilities, animal pens, storage barns. Stables often became one of the largest investments because merchants valued healthy horses almost as much as comfortable beds. Water access proved essential. Most taverns required nearby wells, streams, or springs. Without clean water, brewing ale became impossible. And since ale was safer to drink than contaminated water in many regions, brewing wasn't optional. It was the core business. Brewing rights themselves often required approval from local authorities. Some towns restricted who could legally produce alcohol. Others collected taxes on every barrel sold. Before welcoming a single paying guest, years of labor and significant capital had already been invested. Unlike modern restaurants, Medieval taverns were fixed infrastructure supporting entire regional economies. They succeeded because commerce moved through them. Constructing the building represented only the beginning. The largest investment came from equipping the business. First came brewing equipment, mash tuns, fermentation barrels, wooden casks. Storage cellars, water wells, grain storage. Without reliable brewing capacity, taverns depended on expensive outside suppliers. Next came the kitchen, stone ovens, iron cookware, wood-fired hearths, smoking racks, butchering equipment. Preservation barrels. Food spoilage remained a constant threat before refrigeration. Guest accommodations required wooden beds, straw mattresses, blankets, tables, candles, and heating. Luxury inns invested significantly more in furniture and privacy. Stable infrastructure often rivaled the tavern itself: horse stalls, hay storage, feed supplies, water troughs, harness repair equipment. Merchants frequently judged inns based on stable quality before anything else. Storage facilities protected valuable cargo: wine, grain, cloth, metal goods, salt, spices. Some taverns effectively operated as secure warehouses. Security demanded investment. Strong wooden doors, iron locks, storage chests, stone walls in wealthier regions, armed employees, bandit attacks were genuine business risks. Finally came inventory: beer, wine, meat, bread, cheese, salt. Firewood, candles, livestock. Everything required continual replenishment. In modern accounting terms, much of this represented working capital rather than fixed assets. But for medieval owners, it was simply survival. A tavern without ale was no tavern at all. Once the tavern opened, expenses never stopped. Food became the largest recurring cost. Grain harvests fluctuated, meat prices varied seasonally. Imported spices remained luxury goods. Poor harvests could double ingredient costs almost overnight. Brewing required constant production. Barley, hops, yeast, firewood, water, barrels, every batch demanded labor and raw materials. Unlike modern bottled beverages, ale spoiled relatively quickly. Staff represented another major expense. Brewers, cooks, serving girls, stable hands, cleaners, blacksmith partnerships, security guards. Large roadside inns employed surprisingly sizable workforces. Firewood consumption remained enormous. Cooking, heating, brewing, lighting. Winter operations consumed vast quantities of timber. Maintenance never ended. Thatched roofs required repairs. Wooden beams rotted. Stone chimneys cracked. Furniture broke. Wagons damaged courtyards. Horse traffic destroyed stable flooring. Taxes appeared in many forms: land rents, market fees, bridge tolls. Alcohol taxes, guild payments, royal levies, church contributions. Every authority wanted a portion of successful commerce. Security remained expensive. Bandits targeted wealthy merchants. Drunken fights damaged property. Theft threatened inventories. Owners often maintained relationships with local guards or noble retainers. Disease represented another hidden cost. Outbreaks could empty roads for months. Travel declined. Trade slowed. Guest numbers collapsed. Unlike modern businesses, medieval taverns rarely benefited from insurance. One fire, one plague, one failed harvest could erase years of accumulated wealth. Perhaps the greatest operating expense was uncertainty. No owner knew whether tomorrow would bring prosperous merchants or starving refugees. Every sunrise introduced a new economic forecast. Ale generated the majority of daily revenue. Unlike luxury goods, nearly every traveler purchased drinks. Food represented the second largest income source. Stews, bread, roasted meats, cheese, porridge, simple meals produced consistent demand. Accommodation added valuable recurring income. Guests rented beds by the night. Private rooms commanded premium prices. Stabling horses often generated surprisingly high margins. Merchants willingly paid substantial fees to protect valuable animals. Storage services produced additional revenue. Cargo remained safely stored while merchants conducted business in nearby markets. Some taverns charged for meetings, guild gatherings, business negotiations, town councils, legal proceedings, community celebrations. The tavern effectively rented social space. Entertainment increased spending. Musicians, storytellers. Dice games, seasonal festivals. These encouraged customers to remain longer and purchase additional food and drink. Large coaching inns also earned commissions from merchants by arranging transport, hiring laborers, or connecting buyers and sellers. For a successful roadside tavern located on a major medieval trade route, annual income could rival that of prosperous merchants or minor landowners. But profitability depended almost entirely on location and consistent traveler traffic. Empty roads meant empty tables. Few businesses were more exposed to external events. War could redirect trade routes overnight. Bridges collapsed. Roads became unsafe. Entire regions lost commercial traffic. Crop failures increased food prices dramatically. Ale production declined. Customers spent less. Disease remained the greatest threat. The Black Death devastated travel throughout Europe. Many taverns permanently closed as populations collapsed. Political instability created additional uncertainty. Kings imposed new taxes. Local lords demanded higher rents. Guild regulations changed. Competition increased as nearby villages opened new inns. Fire represented constant danger. One kitchen accident could destroy an entire timber building within hours. Unlike modern businesses, rebuilding often meant starting completely from scratch. Success depended less on excellent service than surviving the unpredictable medieval economy. Powerful nobles rarely viewed taverns simply as drinking establishments. They viewed them as infrastructure. Every merchant stopping overnight generated local commerce. Markets expanded. Taxes increased. Roads became safer. Trade flourished. Taverns increased land values by attracting travelers and encouraging settlement nearby. Many landlords earned recurring income through rents, brewing rights, alcohol taxes, and market fees. Owning successful inns diversified feudal income beyond agriculture. Even during years of poor harvests, commercial trade often continued. Large inns also strengthened political influence. Messengers gathered information. Travelers spread news. Officials conducted meetings. Military logistics relied upon established inns during campaigns. In many respects, medieval taverns functioned much like today's highway service stations, hotels, logistics hubs, and restaurants combined. Their strategic importance extended far beyond selling ale. Owning a medieval tavern wasn't about serving drinks beside a roaring fire. It meant managing one of the most important commercial assets in the medieval